Welcome back to the news at 10. Hate speech and its effect on Nigeria's unity are some of the high points of President Muhammadu Buhari's broadcast to Nigerians on Monday. Now the country's broadcast industry is supporting efforts to stop the act through tighter regulation. The broadcasters have identified the role politicians play in encouraging hate speech, and they've decided to stop them. The decision was taken today at the third annual lecture of the National Broadcasting Commission in Abuja. Our correspondent Ajuri Ingelale reports.
Desperation of political actors to claim power and the subsequent deterioration of decorum and dignified political discourse in the mass media has led to the emergence of sponsored hate messaging in the social media and electronic media. At the NBC lecture series, participants weigh in. A sober mood as broadcast industry officials and participants commence deliberations. In the fight against the spread of politically sponsored hate campaigns on both social media and broadcast platforms, industrial insiders link the spread of hate speech to monetized political influence on media practice as a new election cycle approaches.
Even the hosts of such radio programs at times do little or nothing to stop such incitements. We defined and provided sanctions against hate and dangerous speech. That final piece came from a major study carried out for the Nigeria National Broadcasting Commission. Voices
of conscience speak against the desperate bid of political actors who endanger national security in search of illicit public funds.
There's an urgent need, therefore, for the political class, especially at this time, to develop a collective sense of values born out of a culture of compromise and consensus.
Represented at the occasion, Chairman of Channels Media Group and the Broadcasters Organization of Nigeria, BON, John Momo, says broadcasters' rights must be safeguarded in the war on hate speech.
The Commission should be careful not to be seen to intimidate broadcasters in restricting their right to freedom of expression or playing their watchdog role.
That if you want to hear hate speech or to
After panel discussions begin, there is commotion.
Other people need to have a chance.
Major Hamza Al-Mustafa alleges a high-level plot to destabilize Nigeria by influential office seekers.
Messages from ants become front page, become headlines. Messages from the elephants of the country that takes the major rule become the tiny descriptions of the pages. Radio and television, meaning the electronic, are compelled in some of their programs to read what is in the front pages, meaning you are promoting messages of hate, selfishness and destruction of the country, and it is only what the papers write in the night. Radio and television, Airforce and
Recruitments into the political battles of 2019 have begun online and over the airways, but at a high cost. In the end, Nigerians determine national identity, patriot or patron, a choice which may determine the success of the war on divisive politics, a root of hate speech. Ajuri Ngelale, Channels Television News.
A Nigerian Airforce Air Beetle aircraft has crashed in Kaduna State while on a mission. The only person on board the aircraft, one of the NAF's experienced instructor pilots, was lost during the incident. This was disclosed in a statement by the Director of Public Relations and Information of the Air Force, Air Commodore Olatokunbo Adesonya. According to the statement, although the cause of the incident is unknown, the Chief of Air Staff has ordered an inquiry to determine the cause of the crash. Now, over the years, Nigeria has lost millions of barrels of crude oil to illegal oil deals and other maritime crimes. And the security agencies such as the Navy, the Army and the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps have been fighting these illegal activities in the Niger Delta. On our big story tonight, our correspondent Emmanuel Ire examines why the trade continues in spite of efforts to stamp it out.
Is the difference. Nothing tastes like my Indomie.
This is a cluster of illegal refineries in Iyalama community in Asari local government area of Rivers State with telltale signs of the impact of crude refining activities. The concern, according to security agencies, is that many of such illegal refining sites exist in the over 5,000 creeks in the Niger Delta, posing a tangible threat to the nation's economy. The Nigerian Navy and other security agencies have continued to put up the fight against oil thefts by destroying illegal refineries and bunkering sites around the creeks and jetties in the Niger Delta. This action in turn releases hundreds of thousands of tons of stolen petroleum products into the ecosystem. Although the swarm boogie operation is now preferred to the bonfire method, the waste and impact on the environment is still an issue, with many suspects arrested and brought under the lights of the cameras. Notwithstanding, oil theft, illegal bunkering and other maritime criminal activities continue to thrive in the creeks and underwaters of the Niger Delta, apparently undeterred by arrests and destruction of products.
And I want to say that this is what you continue to see for as long as some of these individuals continue to make attempts to vandalize pipelines and steal crude oil.
Our concern over this persistent problem moves us to seek for answers in the creeks and around the communities. Our investigation unravels what looks like the full cycle of illegal oil deals as shown here. At the top are those that can be described as the big boys. They own the business, live large, own big houses, cars, filling stations, never seen by the camera lights, and they never get arrested. They employ the managers that manage the boys in the creeks who run the illegal refineries and get the products to the communities, the buyers and supply boys, as they are called, with some security operatives somewhere in the mix.
We don't compromise when it comes to the issue of oil bunkering and vandalism. You know, these are core mandates. For that, we take it very, very serious.
Many depend on this arrangement for survival and for fear of arrest refuse to show their faces.
Over the years, we have actually helped the Niger Delta and entire Nigerians with a lot of products. The refineries you see here and there as a result of the products you get from the Niger Delta areas, and yet the people are not benefiting, yet the people are impoverished. So what do we call that?
At a recent meeting of the Minister of State for Environment with a section of former artisanal refiners, the issue of modular refineries is identified as an answer to these problems. But a Niger Delta human rights activist is not comfortable with the modular refineries proposal.
The point will be, how do you talk with them to let them realize that this is damaging their environment, that the process of extracting this, their so-called oil, because that's what they say is theirs. The modalities of extracting and refining this, their oil, should not damage their environment. It should be done in the most optimal circumstances where you get the best recovery, best use of the resource. That's the dialogue that has to happen.
Many view this latest move by the federal government to solve the crisis in the Niger Delta as a possible headway in resolving the crisis in the region. But whether it will resolve oil theft and pipeline vandalism appears to still be in the realm of speculation. For the big story, Emmanuel Irei, Channels Television News.
Taste is the difference. Nothing tastes like my Indomie.
Let's take a look at some business news now. Here's Anne Waudu.
You first. First Bank.
Thank you, Ijoma, and welcome to Business News. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibe Kachiku, is advocating increased funding for local content in the oil and gas industry. Dr. Kachiku made the call while signing a memorandum of understanding between the Bank of Industry and the Nigerian Content Development Monitoring Board in Abuja. Multilateral Trade Finance Institution Afreximbank is in Nigeria to woo investors for subscription to its depository receipts, which was recently issued through the Mauritius Stock Exchange. Well, according to the bank, the issue will expose investors to the growing trade opportunities within the continent and the rest of the world.
As part of Afreximbank's strategies to mobilize $1 billion in equity within the next 5 years, the lender announced an equity offering of $300 million a few weeks ago using depository receipts backed by Class D shares. The issue is already approved for listing on Mauritius Stock Exchange, but subject to raising the fund by the end of September, a reason the bank is embarking on this roadshow to Lagos, Nigeria. The bank's president, Dr. Benedict Orama, explains the benefits of the offer to Nigeria.
We signed a heads of agreement with the Ministry of Health of Nigeria and the King's College Hospital, London, to build a center of excellence for oncology in the country to serve the whole Africa.
The equity is offered at $4.30 per unit for a minimum subscription of $500,000. With these, subscribers are open to incentives in Mauritius.
Any investor in the world can invest in these depository receipts and will be subject to the very favorable tax regime in Mauritius. That is, no dividend tax, no capital gains tax.
After the media conference, it's time to formally introduce the offer to institutional and high net worth investors.
The instrument is US dollars, so it is a hedge against currency depreciation.
But how tradable will these depository receipts be in Nigeria?
With a hope of having a dual listing with a Nigeria Stock Exchange in the near future.
Nigeria has a big stake in the success of Afreximbank, and that's why we're here, so that Nigerians can put their money where their mouth is.
I believe a lot of institutional investors will grab this offer, and the carrot that the chairman of the Bank of Mauritius has added to it, if you can invest $500,000, you get residence.
The offer for subscription remains open till September the 22nd as financial advisors hit the streets to meet targets.
Profit-taking by short-term investors took the shine off major stocks today as the market began its path to recovery this week. Bisi Adebayo has the details of today's transactions.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Reports. The stock market reversed to negative territory at the end of Thursday's trading, a day after touching the 37,000 level, owing to sell-offs across major counters of the market. Thursday's profit-taking knocked off 167 billion naira from the previous 12.77 trillion naira total market value, while the broad index fell sharply by 1.3% after two successive positive sessions this week. High-cap stocks from the industrial, oil and gas and the banking sector contributed to the downturn against weak gains posted by the insurance and consumer goods sector. Out of 19 price gainers, Union Bank and NIBET share the top spot in percentage value, while MRS, Mobil and Custodian lost 5% to lead 22 other losers. Thursday's volume turnover lowered by 26 million units against Wednesday's trading, while the shares of GT Bank, Access and UBA were the main attraction of investors. And that's it on the Stock Market Reports. I am Bisi Adebayo.
Well, it's a mixed close for leading global stock markets today, following a combination of latest corporate earnings and more concerns over U.S. President Donald Trump's comments. Let's see the figures. Thanks a lot for watching Business News tonight. I'm Anne Nwaudo. It's back to you, Ijoma.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10, Real Madrid striker Cristiano Ronaldo clinches UEFA's Player of the Year for the third time after beating Lionel Messi and Gianluigi Buffon to the prize. That's on sports. You stay with us.